tourism sector is both a victim of global warming and a contributor to the problem. An estimated 11% of global greenhouse gas emissions are due to tourism, a number which is predicted to double by 2050. While at the same time, favourite holiday destinations are now at risk as extreme weather intensifies. I'm joined now by SUSANNE BECKEN, Professor of Sustainable Tourism at Griffith University. Professor, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. Now, it certainly appears that this year is going to be a game changer for tourism globally. Of course, we've seen those heat waves in Europe, which have claimed lives. Some tourist destinations are even being closed due to the weather. Is this going to drive change when it comes to tourism on a global level?
Yeah, I mean, certainly some of the imagery that we're seeing on TV of, visitors fleeing from fires into water, being exposed to heat waves in European cities, it is quite dramatic, and it is something that has been, I guess, predicted by research for quite some time. But it's not until people really experience those events that they start to think about how travel might be disrupted by climate change, and especially in those sort of summer holiday months of the Northern Hemisphere, where everyone goes to the hot countries like Spain, Italy, Greece, for the summer holiday, and all of a sudden things are just not what people expect them to be.
What do you think that the main changes are likely to be, as a result of the experiences that you've just described this year? Is it going to be with destination changes? Is it going to be the time of year that people travel to certain destinations? What are the main changes going to be, do you believe?
Yeah, I think we already see happen a little bit of a shift in travel seasonality. The thing is, of course, that many people are confined to school holidays. And so this is why, for example, in Europe, in August, most people go to the beach when August is really the hottest month. And same in winter holidays when we've seen changes in snow patterns. But people cannot choose quite that freely. So there's been discussions on even potentially changing the timing of the big summer holidays, but there's changes in that people start to think about maybe travel insurance. Is the destination safe? We've seen in particular, actually, in the recent weeks, the islands. Islands are particularly tricky environments because you're kind of caught in the island. You can't just escape easily. So people might just become a little bit more risk adverse and think about where do they go and what could actually happen.
What about sustainable holidays, flying less? How much demand are we seeing for that type of travel?
Well, people at least say, basically the majority of people there's a whole lot of consumer surveys done by big travel companies where 70-80% of people respond that they really demand more sustainable products. Now, then there's sort of this gap between what people say and what they really do. So this is where I think instruments such as carbon taxes might come into place, and in some countries and some jurisdictions might already discuss this. Flying might have to become more expensive. Some countries, and this was really fostered by the pandemic, are focusing on their domestic markets. And we've seen that in Australia, we've seen it in European countries where people just stay closer to home. So that helps also with some of the sustainability demands. Flight shame has become quite a topic in Europe, people being a little bit embarrassed about hopping on a plane, and instead train journeys have really become more popular.
You've said before, SUSANNE, that you expect more last chance tourism. What essentially does that mean?
Last chance tourism is an interesting concept, and we've seen it in Australia, for example, with the Great Barrier Reef, where climate scientists project that due to coral bleaching, there's a real risk that the reef will not survive much beyond 2040, 2030, maybe even. So people want to go there to see it one more time. The Kilimanjaro in Tanzania is another good example where people want to go and see the snow-capped mountain. Now, it's quite a sort of doom and gloom type of tourism and not very constructive. I personally don't recommend that destinations market on that basis to say, oh, come here while you can. It's better to, for example, encourage people to travel sustainably and then make positive contributions. People, for example, have become involved in coral restoration projects or tree planting projects. That's a much better way of approaching climate impacts and maybe the loss of some destinations.
If I got you to take out your crystal ball and asked you what you think the tourism environment looks like on a global level in the next 5 to 10 years, how would you describe it?
Well, the key thing to say is that I think it's not the end of tourism. People love to travel. People need to recreate themselves. We've always done it as human beings, to take time out to recharge the batteries. The question is how we do it. And my prediction would be for long-haul travel to reduce overtime. It's extremely carbon intensive. If we price carbon right, it will become expensive. Travel will become more special again and maybe closer to home. And I think destinations that understand that and prepare for that, closer markets, staycations, people stay in their home city and do a lot of things, restaurants, etc. So that's, I think, the future of tourism will have to be maybe slower, closer, more sustainable, but tourism will not go away.